What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Scale Riders Podcast. This is 65 Lokes, and this is episode number 189. Joining me on this episode is our guest, Steve Knox, also known on Instagram as Freddie Beach Customs. He's also an admin at the Now or Never Build Off. And welcome to the podcast, man. Excited to finally have you here.
Yeah, this is awesome. This is really awesome. Thanks, Edgar. I appreciate being able to be here.
Nice, nice. That's cool. So you're based out in Canada, correct?
Yeah, I'm on the east coast of Canada, New Brunswick. Um, 4 hours time difference from you.
Yeah.
Um, I came home
Dang.
from work tonight and went to bed so I could get up to be on this. It's 1
Mhm.
a.m. here.
Wow,
So
man.
it's
Hey, well, thank you for taking the time to do this, because especially with the time difference, sometimes it's tough, but I'm glad that we're finally able to do this, and I hope you're well rested for this episode.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I've been really looking forward to this. This is awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And as far as like your time for building, what's the time that you normally build? Is it early mornings or is that at night?
Well, I work all day. I We live outside of the city, so I travel 45 minutes to work and back home. Got two young girls, and we have to get them ready for school and such. So life's pretty busy. My days are long and my free time is short. And I basically when I want to build something, when I want to get to the bench, it's usually not till about 9 o'clock at night. Um, in reality, only about I might get 45 minutes or maybe an hour in the evenings, and they're hit and miss. But the weekends are where I usually get most of my good work done, like on Friday nights. After I get home, I usually have a lot of wind down to do. Pretty high stress job at times. Um, I like to come home and wind down and put my skills to the bench and spend some quality time. So yeah, Friday nights are the big ones. Saturday sometimes, house chores come in then, but busy.
Right on. No, yeah, I mean, I could totally understand that, but as far as like the weekends being, the time to do it, but then again, you have priorities also, right, that you need to take care of.
Yeah.
But during the week, when you have those like 45 minutes, do you kind of already know what you're gonna work on? Like, are you kind of pre-planning in your mind before you get home?
That's the neat part. Uh, you know, it's one of those things that you kind of mull over in your mind all day during work. Uh, it comes to the surface. Of course, being in admin with the now or never, my phone blows up all day with messages, and it's a constant reminder that, hey man, you work on these, you build these, this is your hobby, this is your downtime, this is what you love to do to kind of get away. And it inspires me throughout the day to kind of come up with some ideas and things that I want to do and some concepts. Today, oh man, it was this is like I got enough material for a year just today for building because the SEMA show opened up. And with SEMA, you get this fresh flood of what's hot right now. And of course, with me, I'm always trying to chase the next thing with staying within my box, which is usually old cars, old trucks. That's kind of where I get my jollies. But yeah, today the SEMA stuff came in, and it was really hard to focus on work because my phone just kept live feed after live feed after live feed. It's like, no, I can't look at it. I got to get work done. Oh, it's crazy. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and yeah, it's a trip because like SEMA, I had completely forgot like when it was gonna be, but my girl, because some years back we had gone together to SEMA one time. We got
Oh,
an opportunity to go through the help with Armando Flores, and I remember it was around the time of like Halloween, like in October,
Yeah.
because one of our buddies that works for Iwata, whose booth we were going to be setting up model cars there, he's like a big Star Wars fan, and he was telling us like, hey, a lot of people get dressed up, and we do all these like things around that week of SEMA, and I was only gonna be there for a couple of days. So like the other day, my girl was like, hey, isn't SEMA going on right now or something? But this was like, or gonna happen. She's like, because I'm looking at my memories and I'm seeing that it's like around this time. And then I was like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. And then I just completely like because I was this last month I was super busy. Then I saw online people posting about it, and then the companies that I follow, like they're coming up with their stuff, and I'm like, oh man, this is going on right now. It must be crazy right now for a lot of people, paying attention to the things that are being brought out from all the companies and artists and designers out there.
Yeah.
Was there anything that like caught your eye right away that you've seen so far?
Oh, yeah. Well, for one, the Ring brothers, I follow those guys. And they're at the top of their game right now. They're kind of the guys that are setting the trend as far as I can see, at least in what I like. Um, and tonight they unveiled that crazy truck. It's like I don't know, it's late 40s, early 50s Chevy that was it was a like a work truck with the big flatbed on it, whatever, and they turned it into like this smash up of IndyCar slash custom truck slash oh, just wicked, just insane. If you get a chance, you gotta see it. You just gotta see it. Those guys are really they're killing it, man. They're killing it.
Yeah, I gotta check that out. I mean, it's so interesting that this show here, it's like an opportunity for that, for people to come out, bring their A game every year, something new, and like to hold that torch, I guess, of like, yo, we're killing it right now. And
Yeah,
I also noticed, you're doing a SEMA build off too, uh,
yeah,
for the model car build off. Tell us about that.
yeah. Well, last year I've been working in the model car build off. That's actually what brought me pretty much back into the hobby, full time after going online and seeing what Jesse, Chester, and them were doing. Um, yeah, so my SEMA build right now is it's a Camaro, a 69 Camaro, which I thought was really generic for this subject matter. And it is. Everybody and their dog has done a 69 Camaro for something. And um Black Box STL, the guy that does he does gorgeous 3D designs, printable designs and sells them on cults. He had a body kit for a Camaro that I had picked up a while ago, and I've just never seemed to have the opportunity to put it to use. So I've been trying to get a little bit outside of my comfort zone after seeing, what Jesse's been doing. His builds are a huge inspiration and something to aspire to. After seeing his stuff, I said, well, what can I do that's going to be equally as wild? I went into my inventory and whatnot and come up with this Camaro idea. I started into it. I got the body kit printed. I got all that done. I got it on the car and I looked at the car and I was like, man, this is so insane. I don't know. I don't know if I should really do this. So I had a spare body and I kind of chickened out. So I started, painting up the spare body, thinking, well, I'll just make some minor tweaks here and there. I'll put a nice engine in it, lower it down, good wheels, it's kind of an attractive paint job. And it somebody out there knew that that's not what I should have been doing because I've been waiting on an order. I ordered a couple uh, packages of 2K clear from Splash, and I got my base coat down and whatnot. And I'm not the most patient person when it comes to this stuff. I like to just keep moving ahead. So I mixed up. I had some clear coat that I had bought from work, which is a 3 stage or a 3K. It's it's your clear coat, your hardener, and then a carrier. and I sprayed it. I mixed it up and sprayed it onto that Camaro body, and instantly destroyed the paint that was on it. It just
Oh
lifted and
man.
crackled, and yeah, it was pretty sad. So then I went back and I did a nice light sanding of my original black box car, and put a base coat on it, and it's on my feed there. But it turned out, it's just, once there was paint on it, I guess maybe the thing didn't look so intimidating, but still just as wild as ever. Um, I got notification that my splash has been delivered to work, so tomorrow I'm gonna grab it and bring it home, and keep moving with this SEMA build. But yeah, that's it right there that you've got up on the screen. Isn't
Yeah.
that crazy, eh? It's
That's cool.
what originally, when I looked at that, I said, "Oh man, those lines in the fenders and everything, that looks like a clamshell hood. That thing's got to cut and tilt forward and all of that." But then you get dealing with the on these build offs, you're up against a time frame,
Yeah.
and I'm kind of late to because I'm really late getting work done on that one because of all the other build offs. I don't have the ability to say no to these things, and I've just been building and building and building and building. And for a guy that used to build, like, I don't know, maybe 4 kits a year, uh, this SEMA or this build off thing is really, you've got to gauge your time as to how much time you have to work on each one. And I was just finishing off the Now or Never build off with my last build, and I kind of just came to the finish on that, and a buddy build that I got going on with Bronco with James Ferris Lot on Instagram. Um, yeah, so I had all these other things going. Now I've got the Camaro. I have like just a little over a month to build it, and I think that's my window. That's my time frame. That seems to
Mhm.
be where I'm most comfortable, is with a month. I put it together, get it out there, get going. So this here is getting a printed 572 engine, with it's sort of a cross draft carburetor, or not even carburetor, I guess, throttle body setup. I haven't quite landed on the wheels for it yet. I've got some carbon fiber that I got from you that I think
Mhm.
I'm going to do a bit of a graphic thing going on with a racing stripe and split it
Oh,
up a bit.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just starting to dabble with that. Um, it's going to be wicked. It's as long as it doesn't, like, paint doesn't freak out on me again. We'll see, but
Yeah.
it's gonna be a cool build.
Dang. Were you just tripping out when you saw it react when you put that clear you used from work and the paint? Were you freaking
Oh
out or not?
man. Well, you know what really sucked about that is that I had put it up on Instagram, the
Mm.
other body, and it was getting like hit after hit after hit, and everybody saying, "Oh man, that color combination is so cool and it's so nice, and oh, it's beautiful." And I was kind of like riding the wave, I was, and that's what those guys on Instagram do. They lift you up and they carry you. And
Yeah.
I, yeah, I was pretty stoked going into it, and that's why I couldn't wait to get the clear coat on it. But the stuff was just so aggressive. I've never had a water-based base coat crackle like that before. But I think it was the fact that I way over reduced it in order to get it to flow better through my airbrush, and
Mm.
the reducer was just too hot. It was like putting a lacquer over an enamel, and it just went crazy. So anyway,
Dang.
here we are.
Yeah, but I mean, that's cool that you keep doing the build offs. Like you said earlier, you don't say no. You just it's like it keeps you on your toes, right? Like you're just constantly building them and getting them done,
Yep. Yep.
and that's
They're
crazy.
fun. They're so much fun. Um, it's inspiration and to get stuff built. I'm sitting here at my workbench right now, and I've got all these kits that are finished in their little cases here. Um, I don't collect built kits. I only collect really kits to build. I don't have really a use for them after they're done, other than, I get my photos, I get everything, I have it.
Mm.
So I only really keep my absolute favorites, and the rest kind of go into a box, and over time they just go somewhere. I had there was a build off. a while ago. It was the NOCO scale build off. It was in tribute to a fellow who had passed away.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I think I got admin's choice or something. Anyway, my little Mercury won one of the two prizes that were available, and it was great. I loved the kit. It was the first car that I put real upholstery in. I went out and I found houndstooth patterned cloth for it, and I did the derelict look on the body, and it was cool. It was really cool. But there was a cleaning accident in my house shortly after I had built it and taken the photos, gotten all that done. It hit the floor and there were parts everywhere. And the way that I build, it's more just for, it has to look good sitting there. It has to have the stance. It has to have the tire and wheel package. It just has to strike you when you see it. That's how I build. I'm not I don't worry a whole lot about the tiny, minute details. I'm more about the overall picture. Well, anyway, this thing hit the floor and the wheels went everywhere and the guts all came out of it. The engine flew out. I looked at it and said, well, you know what? That just created room for one more built kit. So I just swept it up, chucked it in the garbage of all places, and kept on trucking. I don't, yeah, I don't worry too much about the end result or keeping it. It's the journey to getting it done that I really enjoy. Seeing my vision come together.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's crazy though. Like, I've done that before with some kits where they've gotten messed up, or like I back then I used to have them on a shelf, like in the closet, right? And
Yeah,
the closet door was always open. And I was like, oh, I'm just gonna stack them all up there. And they were in their own individual little boxes.
yeah.
And I don't know what happened. Maybe it was the hanger on the clothes, like that just the weight pulled everything down. And all
Oh yeah,
the boxes just came down and they all like just crashed down. Some of the cases broke out of the acrylic cases, and then some of the
yeah.
models got messed up. But I was able to like fix them, glue them, put them back together. But there was some that they were like just jacked up, and I was like, oh, do I really want to revisit this? Like it was already like a one and done, and so some of that stuff I had to toss. So some of it I kept, like, oh, I'll fix it like months later, but the rest I was like, it's just going out. But it's funny, like how you said, making room for another one.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the beauty of. I get a lot of hassle from friends and guys in the local model club and stuff about not keeping stuff around. Like when I get a kit and I get an idea for it, I build it. When I'm done, I pack up the box. Unless there's something really special about the parts that are in it, I don't have room to keep it because it's really just room to put another one. And I've only got so much space. I try not to buy too many kits, but when there's something that comes out that I want and that I have an idea for, and or I know that I'm going to have a use for down the road, I like to pick it up. And you got to have space for that stuff. I can't just keep putting box after box after box. My wife would kill me, man. So, you
No,
know,
yeah, seeing so many. Yeah, I used to like go crazy buying kits all the time, going to the like Hobby Lobby, Michael's, or even the hobby stores, like buying
yeah,
like copy after copy after copy, or doubles. And
yeah,
after a while, I was like, man, I got a stash now, and then later just being kind of a little torn, being like, man, I don't think I'm ever gonna have the time to build all of these because there's too many of them.
no,
And
no.
and at some point, it turned into like I was like, all right, I guess I'm gonna have to sell the ones that I don't think I'm gonna ever touch. And but
Hmm.
then there would be friends who would be looking for a particular kit, and I would just either gift it or trade it. Something would
Yeah,
happen, you know. But it was always like, where am I gonna put these? I was just running out of space all the time.
yeah.
And
I,
even the size of those little boxes, they're so small, but they take up so much space.
well, they stack well, if if you're dealing with one brand, your boxes are mostly going to all be the same. But if you mix in some Tamiya with some AMTs with some Jimmys and you start to get a problem with how am I going to organize these things on the shelf, and it just becomes a mess. So I try to keep all my domestic kits in one place, and then I have a few of the imported kits, in underneath my counter here. It,
Yeah.
and they do present well. My wife shakes her head at the kits that I have in the garage up here on the top of my workbench. There's a lot of them, but I like to look up once in a while and just say, hey, what would I want to do next, or what do I want to do with that one, or it's cool. Like I try to keep them open and up there for inspiration of what's coming up and what I'd like to work on next.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's cool to like have that like like set up. I mean, a lot of the times too, as you're working on builds and you have your kits, that you could visually see up there. I mean, sometimes even that's a motivation, to get the one in front of you finished, so this way
Yeah.
you can move on to that next one. And I'm sure there's just ideas that are going on, and I mean the ones that you have already completed in their cases too, at that point it becomes even like eye candy. You always constantly, I bet you are just staring at them every day.
Yeah. Especially the ones that turned out, the exact way that I visualized them. Um, I have, like, right beside me here at my workbench. I buy those AMT cases, that are stackable. And I've been putting them in those, and I need to get more. I need to get more. But I'm looking right now at there's a kit that I built in 2005, I think, one in 2004, and then I see the exit from the hobby and then back in when I started building again in 2020 or 2019, late 2019. And I'm just looking at, and each one of them there's a story behind it, and a, a mind frame that I had when I was building it, or a point in life, or things that were going on. Like when I look at I've got this derelict 55 Chevy here. Uh, I look at that and I can think of when my wife and I were living in an apartment, and just starting out. I look at this 40, what is it, 41 Chevy I've got here pickup, and I see that, and I can almost, it takes me right back to that point where I was kind of changing my uses. I know I used GM touch up paint for one of the lighter colors on it, and then nail polish for the lower body. And I don't use those anymore, but how nice it turned out. And I don't know, it's cool just to go back. I don't want to have too many of them to go back on, but it's great to have them sitting here just for it's almost like putting your life out on a canvas, or that snapshot of where you were at the time, and just kind of keeping it with you. And it's part of what it becomes, a part of you. Everything you build is a part of you.
Yeah, no, I agree. The other day, when I was looking through a container that I have in my garage, I was looking through all my Gundam kits that I own,
Oh
and,
yeah.
and there was like a bunch that I opened up. Like I opened up a couple boxes, but there was a bunch of figures in it that I just kind of just put in there when based from the last time we moved where we were living at a previous apartment,
Yeah.
and the all of those. I remember I used to just have them in their boxes. Like I never even opened them. But those were ones that I built during the pandemic. So I was at home for so many days, and
Yeah.
just trying to keep the mind busy. I was like,
Hmm.
I'm just gonna work on these. But at the same time, we were waiting for my fiance was pregnant, so we're waiting for her, for the baby to come later too. So
Yep.
I knew like, man, I don't want to have like paint or bottles or anywhere. I can't airbrush in the house or anything.
Yeah.
So it was all about, it was basically like a snap kit. I was just cutting stuff up, lightly sanding, buffing it, and then
Yeah.
snapping together. Now that's all I could do for that time. And it takes me back when I looked at them, I was like, dang, this is kind of crazy. But at the same time, for the time, that was satisfactional, like a therapy almost, it
Yeah.
satisfied me to be able to just follow instruction and do the process, get it, from beginning to end and have it a complete piece right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of the pandemic, like with your business and such, you must have seen, I'm just guessing, but there must have been an upswing in sales during the period where everybody was kind of sent home and asked to not go out in public and stuff. Building model kits is one of the, you could be a professional hermit doing that, right? You don't even have to see the light of day to get out
Yeah.
and build your kits. So as long as you have an idea in your head as to
Mhm.
what you like to build. Did that affect your business?
I kind of caught the tail end, sort of like when I launched the business, because I still remember it was like around March when I stopped working, and
Yeah.
like middle of March, like March 15 or so, I stopped working. And I remember during that time, I was just, at home, and it was just me and my girl. I was just taking care of her and stuff. And then when she's asleep, all right, let me work on my stuff. But at that time, I wasn't really even thinking about that yet. Like an idea, but I wasn't really thinking about it too much. But
Right.
I was like buying stuff from other stores, like supporting other stores.
Yeah.
And it got to a point where like my baby was born in August, and I was already thinking like, okay, when am I gonna go back to work? Like I need to create more income. Like how's this gonna pan out? Like I know I could go back to work once things open back up, but when is that gonna happen? And
Right.
and then I started to think like, all right, well, like from everyone tells me kids are expensive too. So I'm like,
Kids are expensive.
yeah, I was like,
That's an understatement.
yeah, I was like, man, how am I gonna do this? So
Yeah.
then I just like kept thinking about it, and then I don't know, it just things just kind of clicked. I talked to a few
Hmm.
people about stuff because there was a time where I was kind of freaking out, like, man, am I gonna have to get like a second job or another job doing stuff, maybe doing something I'm not even gonna be happy with, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, man, I don't know. But then I just kind of had to write down and really think about what are the things I'm most passionate about and more knowledgeable about, where I feel like very comfortable doing. And when the whole like idea of like, started off with like, well, how about I offer like tools and things like that to sell? My first thought was like, well, where am I going to get this stuff from? Like, I don't have
Yeah.
any connections. I don't know like what or where, but I don't know what it was. I just started like, because I was already following certain companies for time. I
Yeah.
just started, like now being a little like networking, but a little more aggressive sort of with them, in a
Yeah.
nice way though, but just being more communicative. And eventually, in December, by November, I started to get my like inventory in, and then by December was like, all right, let's launch. I have my business license and everything, and I'm
Yeah.
I'm good to go. And I did miss like Black Friday. So
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't ready yet. My website, like I was barely putting it together during that time of that weekend. And I remember like distributors and companies that I was buying products from, they were so busy and sold out of stuff that it was hard for me to get stuff because all
Right.
the stuff was going down. And then
Yeah.
when I launched, I had already missed like all the like that window. So it was kind of like it was a weird like pressure sort of, because I'm telling like friends, some family members of what I'm gonna launch,
Yeah.
and the expectation is kind of high. Like like I guess people think like once you launch a site, you're gonna start selling stuff like crazy.
Yeah.
But it was like the launch went on, and I think I posted on Instagram like the store is is open, whatever. And
Yeah.
it still took some days though to make a sale, like the first sale. It wasn't like that day, right? So
Yeah.
I still went along my business, like, oh, I'm gonna do what I need to do. And then it starts to come in, like, oh, you're like, oh wow, the first sale. And then more days pass. Oh wow, a second sale, things like that. So
Yeah.
it's totally like a humbling experience too. Just like been being very appreciative of like, oh man, like someone actually like this name, I don't even recognize this name, or I probably don't know this person, but they're actually giving me an opportunity to fulfill
Yeah.
an order for them. So, every order like well that I get, like I just like take it very seriously where I'm like, I want to make sure it's packed well. The
Yeah.
customer service is gonna be correct. I don't want anybody to feel like they're gonna like like get a loss or something like that off of my store. Like
Right.
it's just not gonna happen. So, things started to pick up like, once the initial like 2021 year started to come out, and it's kind of trippy. Like I'm comparing with what's going on right now
Yep.
with during that pandemic, that 2021, because I feel like during that 2021 people were just splurging because people were getting like relief money here and there, right?
Right.
but
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
people also were a little bit tired of being at home, and they wanted to just like be happy and whatever, like all this stuff. And now it's a bit different. Like I have conversations with slowly models with Casey about this, and
Yeah.
and I go, yo, what's crazy is that when the minute October started, I noticed a dip. Like things like got slow with myself, but also in my like even my parents' business, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I start talking to other friends, and they start, asking the questions like, "Hey, how's your business going?" and everything. And I'm like, "It's chill, it's not like it's not crazy, but once in a while something comes through." And but I was like, but I'm kind of, I kind of expected this to kind of come around because of
Yeah.
inflation. And then, there's these pressures of like, the rent and
Yeah.
mortgages and just so much stuff, right? And
Yeah.
but it's one of those things, I just take it as like a learning thing.
Hmm.
I'm riding
Yeah.
the wave right now. I don't know what's gonna happen, but
No, that's cool, man. With you, when you started Scale Riders, was it just the podcast, or did you have the store in mind when you did it?
no, so when Scale Rider started, it was more of a like I wanted it to be like a platform for model builders to promote their stuff, because
Right.
in 2017, that was when I launched it,
Yeah.
and I had gone to Japan with Armando Flores. Jeffries was out there too. He met up with us, and Chevy Man Juan Mezcla. So that experience being there was just like a big eye opener.
Yeah.
Being like in the mecca of like a hobby scene, right? Seeing how passionate people were about their hobbies and everything. But then again, I also had met a lot of people out here in Southern California, model builders. But I noticed one thing though, when meeting them and conversating with them, that I mean, they were very, very chill and humble, but they weren't really like, they were very private about their stuff. Like they would put it on the tables and stuff, but social media, it hadn't taken off yet with people
Right.
showing what they were doing.
Yeah.
So during that time, I was like, you know what? I I would like to document video, photographs, and later do a podcast, like to get the story behind these builds, or the story behind the artist that's creating this. So it was more of just posting media. That's all I was doing in the beginning. Um,
Right.
until the store. I would say the podcast didn't come until like 2018, but I think it was around like March, around that time of 2018. So
Yeah.
the podcast had launched months later. And when I was doing that, the structure was a little bit different. I wasn't sure like how often I was going to do it, if it was going to be once a month, or I need, because the dates, they're set up, but later they were always just like different dates. And now this year was the year that I said I'm going to do it every week.
Yeah.
since it started, and I haven't stopped. Like I just kind of been doing that. But yeah, during that time in the beginning, I printed some shirts, like t-shirts here and there, and I sold some, but it wasn't really like that wasn't really like the like what I wanted to do, That's
Yeah.
like I mean it's cool, but I was kind of like I don't want to be stuck with a bunch of shirts,
Yeah.
like a bunch of merch.
Yeah. You'd have to buy them all in your size, right? It's like, well, you know what? I got a shirt for every day of the week, and
I
I
know.
can't get rid of them, but at least I'll wear them. Um, for a guy like you, that this whole podcast and to branch off into a business and to see your online presence and Instagram and stuff, man, you're uh you're doing stuff that nobody else is doing. And this is really cool. Like you've become a hub in the community, the model building community, and you've created this business where you're bringing in the top quality tools and supplies, and it's like you were personally raising the bar for us who are just in the hobby, dreaming about what we want to build while we're at work. We're like, oh man, I saw these God hand snippers and stuff that he was selling. And you just and you think, well, I got these old crap dollar store cutters and stuff, and just like there's the local hobby shop experience, which I dearly love. I dearly love, but they can only put so much into their store on display and the show. And when you walk in there, you talk to them about the upcoming kits, the kits that they just got in, stuff like that. But you don't necessarily get that extra level where you're talking about the science behind the new paints that are coming out, and the quality of the new tools, and why this is so much better. And it's like this totally informative session every week that you've created that just blossomed this hobby. And for a guy who, I took 13 years off. I packed up all my stuff. My wife and I, we got married. I was building fairly rampantly before we built our house. We got married, and we were living in this apartment. It was a nice one, the second apartment, but we decided, oh, we're going to build a house. So that put everything everything on hold. So all of my kits went into cardboard, these big cardboard packing boxes, and they get sent away into storage. And anyway, so the long story short, sorry, I'm rambling,
No,
but
go ahead, go ahead. It's all good.
when I came back to the hobby, my mind was blown. And this was late 2019, early 2020, I think, is when the first build was. A fella at work, we got talking, and he said, "Oh, you used to build kits. I like to build kits." And I was like, "Oh yeah, what do you build?" And so we get chatting about it. And I told him I got a bunch of old kits in my shed. I should pull one out, and maybe if you're building one, we'll do like a challenge between the two of us. Just put something together and see what happens. So we did, and I had no idea what I was doing. The fuse that I was lighting on this bomb that was about to go off. Is when I got this kit in front of me, and then I jumped on the internet, and I wasn't on Instagram, or I had an Instagram account, but I didn't use it. I used it for like my music a little bit, my guitars and stuff like that. Just, hey, look, this is what. And I I came across the model car build off, and I looked back through their catalog of pictures and said, what is going on here? This, I thought I was, cutting edge back in the day, back in the, early mid 2000s. And I'm seeing this 3D printed stuff, which I couldn't even fathom. And, the quality of these builds, the modifications taking place to each kit. And then along comes this guy called Edgar with a Scale Riders podcast that I'm going through the back catalog of that. I'm just like, what happened while I was asleep? Like, this is crazy. It's like a bear coming out of hibernation and the world has changed. So as a kid or as a younger person, I'd build these kits and you'd have to buy a whole bunch of different kits. And I was buying people's collections of built kits just to scavenge parts out of them. You don't even have to do that anymore, like you can order whatever you want, or you can, like Iceman. I was looking at Iceman stuff. I was like, oh my God, these engines, I'd have to buy a full kit to get an LS engine out of something, or a Coyote or whatever. And here's this guy who's just selling these individual engines. Whoever come up with this stuff? Like, it is absolutely mind-blowing what you can do now and what's available out there. Oh man, I don't know. I don't know. I'm loving it. I am loving it. I turned 50 this year. And
Oh, nice. Happy birthday.
yeah,
Right
thanks.
on.
And I'm looking at myself as I'm a dad of two girls, and Lila and Sadie. One is going on 12, and the other one's 10. And how did I get here? And then I come back to, oh, wait a minute, that old Steve is still in there, who loved to build model cars all of his life, and now I'm doing it. And I got the family, and I got and the whole hobby is just exploded with all these cool new things. And man, life is good. We're living in the best years right now.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
telling
You're right. I agree. This is a good times. It's it's crazy because like I remember there was a time where I have friends that collect like action figures too.
you. Yep.
And I mean I went through my phase with these friends of collecting stuff. And we were collecting all these action figures, like GI Joes going back from like the 80s
Oh
to
man.
the modern day ones. And I
Yeah.
remember we were having this conversation, and during that time the line, they kept saying, "Oh, it's gonna die, it's gonna die," and then it would die, and then it would come back, and it would die, and it come back. And the only people buying these were collectors, people
Yeah.
that bought them in the 80s and kept buying them.
Mhm.
And I remember like one of the last ones I bought, and it was a very modern one, maybe around like I think it was like 2015 or so. And I was looking at the figure and I was just amazed of how much articulation the figure had, how much posing and how many
Yeah.
like weapons, all these things that you could pose them to make them look very realistic. And I was going, dude, like these are right now, these are good times for these
Oh,
figures, and these kids don't
yeah.
even care about them. It's
Oh, I
it's
know.
us that are like going crazy over these things. And then eventually I had to step away from it just because I had my phone with them, but I knew
Mhm.
that that was never ending. I knew
Yeah.
that that was a whole other market that I was like, nah, that's gonna make me broke. So
Big time.
big time, yeah.
Big
So
time.
I had to step away, and I was like, I'll just appreciate looking at the photos, and maybe at a convention or something, I'll see one in person. Um,
Right.
but then I those same like thoughts and visions I'm having them right now with like what you said with the models, you
Yeah.
know, with the 3D printed stuff, the kits, the tools, everything, paints. There's so many like paints, like there's just
Yeah.
so many different things, so many options that are out there. There's like the only thing holding us back from creating a build, honestly, is ourselves of the fear
Yes.
of like
Yes.
a fear of messing up. Like that's the only thing.
But here's the thing. What are we afraid of messing up? I've kind of gotten past that, Edgar, because what are we messing up? It's plastic. They make them every day. It's a canvas. It's just a blank canvas. Just go crazy. Go as crazy as you want. And if you do something that's an irreversible mistake, well, you can always pick up a second kit and just start over fresh, right?
Yeah.
But hey, speaking of the GI Joes, just to jump back in that just for a sec,
Yeah. Go ahead.
given my age and whatnot, 1982, I was 10 years old. GI Joe came out with swivel arm battle grip.
Yeah.
I thought those were the best years because you didn't have to hold your gun like straight ahead with one single pose. You could move your
Hmm.
arms sideways. Oh man, I had all the Joes. I had them all. I had oh, and I don't have any now. And every once in a while, I'll jump on eBay and look at them and say, oh,
Hmm.
you know what? I'd love to buy a Snake Eyes, an original Snake Eyes that's still in the blister pack, or
Oh
Grunt,
man.
or
Yeah.
but I don't know. You look at the prices of them; it's insane. I can't justify that because to buy a Snake Eyes, that's like 2 weeks worth of groceries. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
dude. It's
nuts.
crazy. Like like how much they go for. And yeah, I was all over the place with the Joes. Even at some point there was a company out here in California called Sideshow Collectibles, where they do these like
Yeah.
12-inch or yeah, I think they're the height of 12-inch, and they're very like detailed and articulate. And I was buying those, and even I was like, man, these are eating up at my wallet right here.
Yeah.
They were like $300 to $400 figures, and they kept coming out with them, and I was like, damn, I had more Cobras than the Joes, and I was
Yeah.
like, all right, this needs to stop. It was just too much. It was
Man,
too much.
I would love to have an original Snake Eyes, an original Cobra Commander, and an original Destro. I think that would
Yeah,
be the bomb right there. That's the trifecta.
dang, yeah. No, yeah, those are cool, like right there. Earlier when we were talking,
Yeah.
I wanted to mention that I'm gonna be coming out with like a limited sticker.
Oh.
It's just plastic. Watch this.
Ah,
Because
I love
we're
it.
talking about that right now. So
So true.
I had it in the
So
back, I had
true.
it in the background, but it looks too big. I don't know if you can see it
Oh,
there.
I can see it. Yeah, I get the idea of that.
There you
Right
go.
on.
So yeah. So that's gonna be coming
Oh,
out
I'm gonna have
uh
to get one of them.
later. Yeah. I'll save you one for sure.
Right
Um,
on.
yeah, because you know, it I feel like I guess that fear of messing up is just starting over. I don't know. I guess it's almost like we're looking at that time we invested as like a wash. Like, oh man,
Yeah.
I got to start over. And I mean, it's like the we got to see the model builds as like a risk. We got to
Yep.
take these risks to see. We have to see things get messed up, so this way we could kind of test ourselves at how well we handle these situations. Of
Yeah.
do we panic, or do we just kind of chill and brainstorm and make our brains think, all right, what is it that I need to do next to get back on track?
Well, and the best part is every time you do mess up, you learn not to do that next time. And when you're trying to push your skills, you know what's going to be wrong, and you know what's not going to work. So you try something else and maybe it will work. Look at that car you have.
Oh, let me see. I'm like switching up
Is a
the backgrounds. That one there, this was from a painter, Pancho out here from California, that did that one.
right on. Well,
And
you can imagine how many times he messed up before he got to that level where he could lay that paint job down. Eh?
yeah, no,
Like,
for real, it's just crazy. Like when you start to see the levels of people's skills and paints when they get to a point, I guess we assume, oh, they don't mess up. Like they, they get it good every time they get that brush, they airbrush and they paint. But I'm sure,
yeah.
they have their struggles too, and maybe they just don't say anything, but it happens.
Well, and really, that wasn't their first paint job like that. Like your first one's going to be more simplistic and it's probably going to have some flaws in it, but as they do it over and over and over and over, these different kits and, build it up and build it up and build it up, um, it just becomes that art form, that total art form, man. That is so cool. I would love to be able to do one of those panel paint jobs with, oh my God, I just
I'm
look
sure
at
you
it.
will. I mean, because that's the thing. First, you have to want to do it. That desire of like, and that day will come, dude. You just gotta at some point be like, you just start brainstorming and asking them. Right now we have, that's another thing. So many resources, so many people
Yeah.
that will tell you, show you, and there's pictures, and then all you have to do is just get the materials, and it's like, all right, let's do it step by step, and we'll go from here. Um,
Yeah.
let's. I wanted to get into your history.
Yeah.
I want to dive into that. Like as far as like how old were you, and how did you get involved with model building from the beginning?
I've been waiting for this conversation,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
I've been waiting for it. Okay, so I am the youngest of a family of five. And growing up, as a little kid in the 70s, all the guys were building model cars. It was just what people did. Um, my older brothers, they both built. My uncle, he built. Um, so yeah, so I got hand-me-downs. If a kit didn't turn out, my brother was building it. He didn't like the way it turned out, whatever. I ended up with it. So I'd end up with this glue bomb or whatever you want to call it. And the first one I ever had that I can recall, like I had some snap kits, but I don't really count those because they don't, they just sort of go together. They're more toyish. But the first one I got was a Revell 53 Chevy Bel Air. Yeah, Bel Air. And I had two paints. I had one bottle of Testors black gloss and one bottle of Testors silver. And I just remember going nuts on that thing and just smearing this paint all over it. Oh, it was nasty, man. And I don't think it ever did dry. If you were to go to the dump wherever it ended up now, 40 years later after I put it together, I'm sure that paint's probably still wet, because it was about 3 inches thick. But that lit my fire. And then the first glue kit I ever got that wasn't touched was an MPC Mustang 2. It was like a drag street car. I think they re-released it as some kind of a firefighter car recently in the last few years. But I started building kits when I was I had to wait till I was 10 before I was allowed to use glue. So at 10, it was like, all right, let's do this thing. So I started building those kits, and there were hobby shops in my town. There was one big one called Leisure World. And you'd walk in there, and there was this aisle that had, man, they must have had thousands of car kits and every scale you'd want. That was back when, 1/8 was a thing, and 1/16. And then you had your 125th and 124 kits. Anyway, I every week I was delivering papers at the time. I would take my paper money, I would go out and buy a kit. But then along came this hobby shop when I was about 14, I think it was, who would order in the kits you wanted. And as soon as, like, that was the first introduction to a catalog of what Revell or Monogram or AMT, yeah, I wasn't into any of the Tamiyas or anything at the time. But to see what was out there, what I'd do is I'd go in, they'd ask for a little deposit, you put down your deposit, then you'd wait for like 2-3 weeks, maybe a month, and then your kit would come in. So I started ordering these kits and building them, and really enjoying them. I remember one of the first ones I ordered was the Monogram 65 Mustang Fastback. I think it was at the time, was it 65? And I was huge into muscle cars then. And anyway, I started building those, collecting those. Then Revell comes out with the Hot Rod series, which I was always every month I'd buy Hot Rod magazine and Carcraft magazine, and that was my inspiration. That was my internet of today. And I'd look at what was coming through that was cool at the time, and I'd build it. Now, Pro Street came along in the late 80s, and that was like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever. This is what I got to do. So every kit that I built throughout the late 80s had the big Mickey Thompson tires in the back, the big engine up through the hood. And, it was all, and I was at that point, I was, grabbing other people's built kits and tearing them apart, and we're trading. And because I had just, that's what people did back then. They traded stuff. And so, I get right into the pro street thing. I remember in high school, I got a friend of mine into building model kits, and I thought I was pretty good. I thought I was like, oh man, you know what? He's going to want to build kits just like I do. And we both built a kit, and I had built, this is my hobby. This is what I did on a regular basis. So this friend of mine, I introduced him to building kits, and there's boom, we see this advertisement for a model show at the local mall. And I said, Alex, we've got to go enter this. We got to come on, get something together. So we go, and wouldn't you know, like he blows me out of the water. This guy takes home first place in the category, the junior category, and I get squat. I got nothing. I couldn't believe it. I was devastated, man. I was like, what did I do wrong? So then I joined the local club, and the following year, like I really focused on it. I was like, man, I got to do this. I got to do this. This is me. This is what I do. So I built this 51 Chevy Bel Air, Pro Street, of course, and I took home best of show from that show on my second try, because I put everything I had into it, man. And at the time, it was pretty cutting edge. This kit, it was I painted it like this light purple color. It was slammed down. It had the Super Trap mufflers on it, exiting out in front of the great big rear tires. And under the hood, I had a modified Buick Grand National V6 under the hood, which I thought was pretty risky for the time, because everything had to have a big block Chevy in it. And I put this little turbocharged engine that, at the time the Grand Nationals were wicked, but why would you, when you could put a 454 in, why would you put a little tiny V6? So anyway, I had it all detailed out, and I had gotten into the plug wires, and I've gotten into all that stuff, and that launched me into the next level, which was great. I started building better kits after that, because it was like, I got to keep up this momentum. I got to keep up this momentum. And life happened. Things went on, and I moved into an apartment with my girlfriend later on. This was my early 20s and stuff. And I was still building kits and, loving it. And I had found out about this apartment by a guy that was in the local club, who was my nemesis. He was like, he's the bar that I'm going to reach, because this guy is good. And he ended up living upstairs. It was like a duplex. So he'd be upstairs building, I'd be downstairs building. And on Friday nights, we'd be like, hey, man, let's drink some beer and sit out on the deck and talk. So we'd go out on the deck, we'd talk. He'd bring out the kit that he'd been working on. I'd bring out the kit that I'd been working on. And we'd like, hey, how are you doing this? And how are you doing that? And he introduced me to bare metal foil and, polishing my paints and, really helping me get better. And it became a real cool thing. Like he's a great friend and a great inspiration. And we had a lot of fun doing that. And then later on, I went on to starting to sell my kits on eBay. What I do is I build the kit, and this was in the early 2000s at this point, and Pegasus had just come out with those beautiful big 5-spoke wheels and such. I'd build a kit, I'd foil it up, I was using leftover paints from work, because like I guess I mentioned, maybe not in this conversation, but I was the manager of a body shop at the time, one single body shop. And every time we spray a car, we'd have paint left over, and just enough to, like, you always make sure you have a little bit more than you need, but not too much, because you don't want to waste. But that little bit left over was always, way more than what you need to paint a kit. So I was airbrushing these colors, and had a great color library at that point. So I was painting them these wild colors, putting these nice wheels on them, taking real good photos, selling them on eBay. People were buying them up. It was a lot of fun. That kept me kind of one, it funded my kit purchases
Mhm.
and supplies and whatnot. And two, it kept me going. Like what's the next big one that I'm going to build that somebody's going to just boom, blow their mind with? And yeah, it was a lot of fun. But right after that, then we got married, we built the house, and I shut down for 13 years. And here I am now, back into the hobby and mind blown again.
Yeah. What year would you say was that when you shut down, when you said like, all right, I gotta
Uh,
handle
two,
life right now. No
it was
building.
2007.
Wow, okay.
Yeah,
2007, and then that's when, how you said earlier, you jumped on, well, you had the Instagram, but it was more
yeah.
personal, and then you started to discover like more model builders through Instagram.
Oh yeah, yeah. And
Dang.
once I found those build offs, it was like, okay, this is it. We're back. We're back full time. Um, and then I bought a 3D printer and started toying around with that and seeing all of the things that are out there.
Mhm.
Man, what a game changer that's been. Holy, like,
Yeah, so like, that's one of the nice things. Like right now, you can buy a file online, somebody's page, and then once you have that file, you can pretty much just print as many as you want of that
yeah,
file in your home. And
yeah,
once it's ready, cured, ready to go, you could start adding that to your model kit.
yeah. You know what's another big benefit to that? And I was thinking about this before, knowing I was going to be talking to you tonight. Um, I've listened to a lot of talk on your podcast about the 3D printing, and there's one thing I don't know if I've ever heard touched on. You had a picture of my 1960 Ford pickup in behind here at one
Yeah, let me.
earlier. That's an original kit. Actually, I got that kit from the guy that used to live upstairs from me. And it was just
Here we go.
um, an assembly of some parts and a bunch of parts missing. Uh, what I did with that, like that kit, as you see there, there's no tailgate on it. The tailgate had been whoever owned that or built it back in whatever year they built it. They destroyed the tailgate. They
Hmm.
scratched it up. They tried to get the Ford lettering off of it, and they ruined it. So I cut it off and got rid of it. In that photo, there it doesn't show it, but there's an online program called Tinkercad. Like I'm not a CAD designer by any stretch, but I like to mess around with it a little bit. So I got in my mind, what am I going to do for a tailgate for that truck? I could get some sheet styrene out and try to come up with something. But instead, I went into Tinkercad. I got my dimensions that I needed for the back end of the truck, and I designed a tailgate in 3D for it, and I printed it and I used it for the truck. Now that truck right there, that's a 62-year-old model kit. Like that's an original
Dang.
kit from 1960, but it's
Hmm.
missing parts, so it's no good
Yeah.
without parts, right? So I was able to produce something for it, and I could have reproduced the original tailgate. Like really, it's not that difficult. But I
Hmm.
decided to make something fancier, so it matched the sides of the box panels and had a little spoiler on the back to kind of give it that pro touring look. And then I got thinking, hey, this truck is a 1960. That was back when those Chris Craft boats were really in style with all the wood and the chrome and all of that beautiful workmanship on them. I
Hmm.
want to add some kind of that flair to it. So I put a tonneau cover on the back, but I designed it. I went in and in Tinkercad, it's kind of cool. They had a pattern that looked like wooden strips. It had the wood grain in it. So I pulled that in and I started playing around with that. So I built planks and I just in 3D, I flipped the next one over and then the next one I flipped backwards and upside down just to keep the grain changing on the wood
Hmm.
and added the strips in between, printed it out. Now I have a wood grain tonneau cover built for this truck.
Man, that's crazy.
And like that engine in behind, that came from
Hmm.
Maddie's custom scale.
Okay.
Yeah, that one there. That was Maddie's custom scale. It's fully 3D printed, although the transmission is from Black Box
Uh-huh.
STL. He did the transmission. That's the one off the 572 kit. That's the engine that's under the hood. Those wheels, they're from Z-Force Model Works. That's a beautiful little style that they had. Or is Yeah, that's what those ones are. And under the hood, once I got the whole thing almost ready to be put together, under the hood was terrible. And I thought, well, you know what? I've painted this thing. I didn't expect to build. I wanted my concept to come to life, but I didn't expect to
Yeah.
build a perfectly detailed kit. So when I got that engine under the hood, I thought, oh man, that looks beautiful, but the surroundings are horrible. So I went back into Tinkercad, made a few measurements underneath the hood, designed a quick little engine surround and stuff, printed it out, and boom, it's done. So a
Dang.
lot of my scratch building takes place virtually, and my printer is the tool that I use just to make the thing come to life.
Hmm.
So above and beyond buying designs and stuff like that, it it's awesome to be able to create in cyberspace and then print it
Yeah.
out as an actual, usable part. It's what a game changer that is. Like,
No, that's nice. And there in your workspace, you pretty much have everything set up. Like you have your paint booth in there too.
yep, yep, right beside me here.
So paint booth, your workbench, and then your 3D printer right beside it.
Yeah, my printer's actually in the basement.
Okay.
They Here in New Brunswick, it gets really cold in the wintertime, like
Hmm.
crazy cold. So my garage, it's not heated. I only turn the heat on out here when I'm out here doing something, and it's sort of a direct heat. It only heats this one little area.
Hmm.
So in the wintertime, what I do a lot is like all my prints go on in the basement because the temperature stays relatively normal. Um, the In the kitchen, at the kitchen table, I just have a big mat that I put down, one of those cutting mats, and I'll bring my kid in and sit there while Jen is watching TV, and I'll tinker away at a kit, and we get to catch up on our day and chat and stuff. And, it's cool, man. It's really cool. This hobby has just been total therapy for me. I love it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Do you kind of you know how you were saying like, in a year you would build like four cars like in a year. During that time, were you just like kind of planning out? Do you ever plan out like let's say for next year, right? Like 2023, are you kind of planning out what kind of cars you're gonna want to build, or is it just kind of
Not
what?
Not even in the least, man. Not even in the least. I kind of just go with the flow. I get some. How is I don't even know how to really explain the process, but I make sure like if a kit comes out that's new that I know I'm going to want to build, I'll pick it up and I'll put it into my stash. And there are nights that I'll come out and just sort of stare at the stash and say, okay, well, I get this and I get that. And, this would make a nice sort of a what's the patinaed vehicle, or this would make a nice full on SEMA show car. And if I see a wheel design come out, that I really like, I'll buy it off of the cults or whatever. And then lately, the way it's been is when a build off is announced, I'll go out and look and say, that one. And then just boom, and then it just comes
Yeah.
together. I like I don't like to plan too far ahead because everything changes. And even when I get a build started, I haven't seen too many of my builds turn out to be what I originally intended them to be because they take on a life of their own as I go.
Mhm.
I'm terrible with that. Like I couldn't build a replica because it wouldn't have my it wouldn't have my design or my vision to it. It would have somebody else's. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Hmm.
Like this, it's just a blank. again, it's a blank canvas. When you start out, it comes to life. I built a square body pickup here not too long ago for which build off was it? It was a month long. I think it was Now or Never. And it went crazy. I love that truck. I just absolutely love it. It has the big GM square body style wheels. I printed them a little bit oversized and then really dished the back ones. It's got the crazy hood on it. And it just as I went, it started out yellow. I got a yellow paint for it. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna build it like a utility truck gone bad. And then it ended up with, fully polished two-tone blue and gray, like high pearl paint, and just slammed down over these wheels and shined up and polished. And I couldn't be happier with it. But it's nothing that I had envisioned when I first started it. I love to see something come together as a blank, as just a white plastic body, and then end up, the thing of beauty. But it just comes to life as you're building it. It takes on this life of its own, and your finished product. I always surprise myself with what I come up with in the end, because it's a live, active build that doesn't truly have a plan behind it. That makes me a little odd for that, but yeah, I don't know. They come to life.
Yeah, and what's your process when you open up like a brand new kit? Like you open it out of the box. What's like the first immediate thing you do to that body?
This is going to sound weird. The first thing I like to do, once that cellophane comes off and that lid comes off, I smell it. You ever done that?
Oh yeah.
Get that, the fresh plastic, and you can kind
Yeah.
of smell the adhesive on the decals, and the instruction sheet has that paper, that fresh paper smell. But once I get past that part, I like to take it out and I look over the body. You hold it up different angles, whatnot. You look for the flaws that are usually there, like a little sinkhole here, or some mold lines or whatever, so a little bit of flash. Kind of plan on what it's going to take to bring it to the point where it's a good starting point. A lot of the Tamiya kits, the Aoshimas, the Fujimis, they're very clean coming out of the box, but I'm usually building something from AMT that was originally designed in 1960, or in the 70s from MPC or whatever it might be. And it just, yeah, I kind of look at what it's going to take to clean it up. Like that Camaro, for instance, that I remember when that first came out, showing my age here. I remember when that actual kit was designed and put out to market. It's a Revell kit, and it's incredible, because when it first came out, it was cutting edge. It was like, this is amazing. It's still a good kit, but now I can see the wear on the molds and whatnot. It never had any what's that called again? The flash. It didn't have any flash around any of the parts, but now the thing's half terrible. And this, when it came out in 1990, so that was the year I graduated high school. It was so clean and so crisp. But now, yeah, there's a lot of cleanup on your parts and whatnot that never was there before. But hey, they're getting older, and so am I. So that's either way, it's cool. You're still good subject matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that body that went nuts. This
Oh wow.
It was pretty at one point, but not anymore. So yeah.
And once you when you're before you primer the body, are you sanding it at like a 400 grit or 600 grit to primer?
Yeah. Yep. I have it depends on, of course, how much cleanup there is on it. The first thing I like to do is I'll take my hobby knife and take any of the mold where your molds come together and they leave that little bit of flash on your resin panels where, clean that up and then give it a good sanding with, let's see, I usually start at 600 and I have these soft sanding cloths from 3M that I use for that. Um, and so I go 600 and 800,000. I want my primer to have a bit of a bite. So I don't like to go any, I usually keep it around 800 really. Um, and then what I've been using, I'm using waterborne paint for my base coats, which,
What
again,
brand?
makes, well, it's Exalta. It's
Okay.
leftover stuff from work.
Dang, I heard that paint's dope. Exalta. I have a
Oh,
friend, his name's Javier, who he's always talking about Exalta. And he was saying that there's a famous custom painter who recently passed away too. He was sponsored by that company Exalta, and he was using that type of paint for a lot of his lowrider paints.
yeah.
And I mean, amazing stuff. And I mean, you could create amazing things, obviously, with different brands, but I've heard a lot of great things of Exalta.
Yeah. See, at work, we have, being that we're a collision center, we have the mixing booth right there. So custom colors and whatnot. If I want to buy a color, I can go in and just put it into the computer and bring it up and have it made right on the scale. But the cool thing I get to do, like I was walking through the shop today and we have a Jeep that was in there having some warranty work done, and it's this crazy. There's a name for it. It's a lime green pearl that's on it. I think it's like a 2020 Jeep, something like that. And to walk by it and have it catch the light in the shop, we have these. Our shop's beautiful. We have these overhead lights that really bring out all of your contours on the body, and it flips the pearls and the metallics as you walk past. You can see them shift. So I get a real good preview of the paints before I use them, or
Hmm.
and then I'll always go back to the mixing room and say, all right, where's the cup that this paint came out of? I got to find how many, if there are a few ounces left in the bottom, and I bring that home and use it if there's a bit of I hate to see something go to waste, especially when it's something I can use.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that kind of falls back to my build plans. When I have a kit on the bench, that kit's probably going to turn out a color that we painted in the shop that week, because it's all fluid. It's all like, well, you know what, this looks good. I have a Bronco on the bench here right now that I started out. I had picked up a bottle of Ferrari red. I thought, well, you know what? It's an orangey red. It'll go well with the decals. So I picked up a little Vallejo airbrush bottle, Ferrari red, and I painted it, and it was so orangey red. It looked like a red oxide primer, if you've ever seen that. And I don't know, it just wasn't doing it for me. So
Yeah.
we had a Hyundai in the shop the other day, and it was this red pearl color, and there was a bit left over in the cup. I said, well, you know what? I'll just snag that and brought it home, sprayed the Bronco, and man, it just absolutely came to life. Like, and the paint just it's gorgeous. I think I'm fortunate, and I don't I do recognize that because of the ability to have these paints. Like with Splash, I see on their website, and I listened to the podcast that he was on. He's doing that for customers right off the bat. You can get your custom mixes or order a color that is on a car that you saw out in the parking lot somewhere or a dealership. You can get all
Hmm.
that through him, mix to match. And I don't know how your stocking goes with that, whether you have to order on demand or keep a certain amount of shelf stock, but that's where I'm fortunate because I have that stuff live all around me at all times, and
Yeah.
access to it. Now his clear coat, there's no there's nothing. I've seen nothing that compares to that product. That's the best thing ever. I've never seen something like there's a self-leveling in it that when it lays down, it 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 becomes like a glass finish. I don't know how they do that. I there's no orange peel. There's no pebble to it. There's nothing. It's so nice. And yeah, you must go through a lot of that stuff, eh?
Yeah, no, yeah. When the time comes, I think I could get like if I was just clear coating bodies,
Yeah.
I could probably do like two, maybe three bodies with the size of like the 1 ounce with
Yep.
the that's how much I could get out of it. But I mean, I I'm kind of I take my time, but when I just do just one at a time, I'm very satisfied because it's just like I'm just focusing on the one instead of kind of
Mm,
rushing through all of them.
yeah.
But that's the thing. I really love like the finish that it gives, and I also don't have to worry about storing away like a quart of clear or
No.
a big bottle of reducer, you know, or
Yeah.
catalyst. Like it's just a simple mix, put it
Yeah.
together, and it's ready to go. Back then when I had the space, I did use House of Color,
Hmm.
the show clear, and I love the show clear, and I did love the whole mixing part of it. Um,
Yeah.
you know, because it was a mystery at first, and then once I learned how to really do it, I was like, man, this is fun to me as well, just mixing everything together. Now, you know, I don't have as much as time as I did before, and I
Yeah.
also don't have that type of space, but I'm just glad that at least I have something that's really good by Splash that's in a small size that's
Hmm.
really easy to mix, and I could just start spraying right away.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And like I say, it's just a total game changer. Um, how do you feel about young people entering into the hobby? Do you see much going on these days with kids coming in, Edgar? Like,
Yeah, it's kind of hard because like as far as shows, sometimes you do see a presence of some like the juniors that enter
yeah.
the model contest, but I've missed like a couple of shows, you know, that are out here. So I haven't really gotten to see what's going on right now, like for this year. There is a show coming up next week. So next weekend or this weekend coming up I will hopefully I do see some kids, you know, that are entering the contests at least to participate. Um, if anything, I tend to see more uh like adults, just you know, I would say maybe ages between like 30 years old and up,
Yeah.
that are you know, even if they're like 25 to 30, I feel like for some of them they're new to it,
Hmm.
but for you know people who are like in their 40s and up, they were doing it back then, but now they're coming
Yeah.
back into it. So
Yeah.
I see a lot of that too. Because even I'll get notifications on my phone from comments from YouTube videos that I've done in the past, and
Yeah.
a lot of those comments are just people saying like, "Hey, oh man, I just came across this video. I just started getting back into building, or I used to build back in the day, and now I'm glad that I see that there's like people building and it's still going on because I feel like I'm new to it again, and there's all these like things. So when I start to see that, also I go, oh wow, like this is a good sign right here. More and more people coming back into it,
Yeah.
you know. And
Yeah.
yeah, I just feel that I have noticed though, like you know, the level obviously the bar has raised, but at the same time, I feel like people, as much as serious as they're taking it, like they want their cars to look really good and presentable, they're
Yeah.
also paying attention to the materials, the tools that they're using, and the paints that they're using.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody um like has upped their standards more, you know.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
I know for sure like you can be using the same tools for many years and and you could pride yourself as like, oh, I bought this for $1 or $5, and look what it's doing. Like that's
Yeah.
cool. But if you have the opportunity to upgrade it to something
Yeah.
a bit of a more premium, until you get it and you use it, you're gonna be like, wow, like this is what the hell? This cuts like butter, or this is
Yeah.
gonna save me so much time. Man, why didn't I get this already? Like those things will happen at some point.
Yeah.
It's like I trip out on like sandpaper. There's so many
Mhm.
options with
Yeah.
sandpaper. Every brand has their own sanding pad, sanding sponge, sanding paper, sanding stick, everything, right? And
Yeah.
and I mean, at first, you stick to what you know and you stick to maybe what a friend recommends, but then once you start exploring and you start getting different ones, you start to notice like, oh, this is good for the body, this is good for glass, this is good for polishing. So now you
Yeah.
start to kind of categorize all your sanding supplies now. Like you can't
Yeah.
just depend on one brand and one stick. You have
No,
all this variety now.
man, and that's a good point, and there's a, like you say, there, you step it up, but there's also that entry level stuff. Like I ordered off of Amazon, I think it was, um, a long time ago, a package of these fingernail files, the disposable ones,
Hmm.
and they're great just for, when you bust open that box and you're cutting things off the sprue, and you're getting your initial check over done, hit those attachment points to the sprue with these nail files, and they're great for just rough work. And then as you go up through, you're taking out your imperfections in the body. Then you're stepping into maybe more the your finer quality items, like a sanding pad that has a foam backer on it, so that you can get a good block sand on a surface. Or there's just such a variety of things that the more that you have access to, the better of a project you're going to end up with. And the stuff is out there. You're right. Like it's all game changing. Everything that comes out changes the way you do things over and over again. It's so cool.
Yeah, there's a company who I feel it's very underrated.
Yeah.
And they're called GIC, and they're based out of Taiwan. That's where they make all their products. And I used to see when I was getting into Gundam, I used to see only people like in Taiwan and other countries in Asia that were using their products. And I
Yeah.
was like, why isn't anybody selling that here? So I got very curious about their brand. So then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just take the risk and contact them and put in an order. So I just put in an order and I got all their different nippers, whatever they had, I got it in. And I was like, all right, before I introduce it to sell it, let me use it. So I opened up every nipper and I started using it, and I was blown away by the quality. I was going, you know what? I low key think they are the ones who make the Tamiya nippers.
Oh yeah.
And they must make the ones for, I started like comparing them to like all the different companies because I had all the other tools from God Hand and all this stuff. I was going
Hmm.
like, yo, I think this might be the company that gets like sourced, right? But it's just
Right.
obviously they change the color of the handles, the packaging's different and everything.
Yeah.
So I started using all this stuff, and then they had their nippers that were at 45-degree angle. And
Right.
and I was like, cool. And I started looking at them and I said, you know, they look good, but then I feel like at some point they're gonna snap because at 45-degree angle they're thin. But
Right.
I kept using them over and over and over and over. Wait, I was just like, I want them to snap, and they won't. And I
Yeah.
still have them, and they haven't snapped yet. And they just became like a workhorse for me. And even my one of my friends, Dutch, he's bought like a couple pairs off me, and he goes, "Man, I love using those all the time." And I was just thinking and going like, man, these tools aren't they're not really that expensive. They're inexpensive, but they're high quality tools. And then they also have this electric Dremel that's powered by USB. Uh,
What?
so you could connect it to your computer or to a USB like little
Yeah,
block for
yeah,
power.
yeah.
But the thing is the speeds, you get to control the speed. Like there's a little knob on the back. So
Right.
so these were made, they're really made for modeling because the speed it gives you is fast, but it's not
Yeah.
too extreme to burn you through the body, right?
Oh man.
I
So
can't remember the RPM speeds, but I
yeah.
remember I had a conversation one time with the modeler, an older gentleman at a show, and I was selling at the time the display, the pen Dremel,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and he's like, "Can I see that?" And he looked at it and he was looking at every other specifications he gave you, and he told me he's like, "Hey, this product here, this isn't for modelers. Like this isn't for modeling." I was like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "You can use it like to cut stuff or whatever."
yeah.
He's like, "No, yeah, you could cut, but what if you're gonna polish or whatever?" He's like, "You're gonna this thing's too powerful. He's like, these RPMs are
Yeah.
they're too high." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right." So then I pulled up the GIC stuff, like the info, and I'm like, "What about this? What do you think about this one though?" And then he's
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, this one definitely is more for modeling because look, there's a limit as how like if you turn it up all the way, like it still hasn't reached the capability of that little pen. That little thing's gonna like your piece of plastic's gonna fly or whatever." And
Yeah.
and then I was like he just had me thinking, and I was like, you know what, I need to put in a future order with GIC and get these USB powered Dremels. uh,
Yeah.
and I mean, I can always carry the display, but I'm just thinking about I don't want people to run into issues, right?
Yeah.
Um, so
Funny.
I'll send you photos later of the one because they have two
Yeah.
of them. They have two of them. One of them is a white one, which is like the light, and then they
Yeah.
have a black one that this set comes with the like cutting discs, and it comes with all these little bits, right? And
Right.
the one thing I liked about the disc was that it has a screw at the top, so you could unscrew and take off the cutting disc, and
Right.
then like when you buy like a photo etch, like the breaks, and
Yeah.
you want to polish them, you could fit it on there and then put the little
Oh
screw,
man.
and it holds it tight, and then
Yeah.
you turn on that Dremel, right, and it's spinning, and I mean you could do it fast or just like a medium speed, and just put
Right.
your sandpaper on top really lightly, and as it's spinning really light, it's polishing it, it's giving it that like used
Oh yeah.
polished look feel. And I'm like, cool, ready to go. And at least I'm not going full throttle where the part's gonna just fly or hit me in the face. You know,
Yeah.
it's a little bit more controllable. And I mean, like that's the thing I think about this company, and I go, man, like I don't see any other store selling it. Like I do searches in the US, like what other hobby stores carrying this, and I only see my like the stuff I'm stocking in the store from them of
Mhm.
that. So I'm like, all right, well, as much as I promote it, but it's
Yeah.
still because the brand's not popular. It's
Right.
it's not something that's flying off the shelves either,
Yeah,
But
but you know what? It probably will be if it's as good of a product as what you're saying, and
yeah,
you're the voice of the industry right now anyway, whether you want to wear that hat or not, you're the guy. And if honestly, Edgar, I think if it's something anything that you come up with that you're coming across that is a good product that you've tested, man, they're going to take right off because you're reaching everyone in the hobby, you know?
yeah,
And
it's a definitely good, they're good tools, like for sure. If I haven't had issues like with them or anything, like I'm like, man, these are cool, but it's not gonna, make me like if they're not. I mean, they do sell, but it's not, like I said, flying off the shelf. But I'm gonna continue making the purchase, with them to get more stuff in, um,
yeah, and you know
because
what? most people wouldn't have ever heard of them unless you were talking about them.
Yeah.
So this is awesome. I got to see this thing. Like I'd love to have one. Uh, Funny story, and I don't mean to go off on a tangent with this, but you're talking about polishing and being able to control your speeds and whatnot.
Hmm.
I decided that I wanted to be able to polish my paint after it was done. I'd been using automotive clear coat. So this is a funny story. It's tragic, really, but it has a happy end. Um, I have this drill press that I ordered a polishing setup for. So it has like the 3-inch round disc and then the Velcro backed polishing pads. I had a car I was building for one of the build offs, and I just got the paint done. I just got the clear coat down, and there was a nib right on the top of the roof by the driver's side front. I said, geez, I got to get that out. So I wet sanded it down. I blocked it down with my little sanding pads here. And I put it underneath of the drill press with this thing on. And the drill press only has one speed. But I'm holding the car underneath of this and I'm polishing and polishing, polishing. And then I hear this weird grinding sound. And I pulled my car back and I'm missing half the roof. It chewed
Dang.
the roof right off the car. So here I am, and I'm like, oh no, it was a 3-tone paint job. I designed a custom hood scoop for this thing, and it was the curbside, so it was like the only thing I had to have really turn out was the paint, and now I've destroyed it. So cool story. And I've got it on my feed there how I did it, but I used 3D resin and a UV light to rebuild that section of the roof without disturbing the rest of the paint. And
Hmm.
whereas it was a 3-tone, I was able to just repaint the roof section itself after. But I created the entire front of the roof back, out of 3D resin, and it took like 10 minutes. So
Wow.
to have products like that around, it's incredible.
Hmm.
But with your polishing, you got to be careful. But
Yeah.
that was a big save on my behalf. And the car is sitting here today with an excellent roof on it. It's
That's
so yeah,
cool. No,
yeah.
that's
That's
pretty
something,
cool.
that's something people should try more, is that the 3D resin as a filler or as
Hmm.
a panel gap filler as a something to mold in body parts with.
Hmm.
All of that stuff. The stuff is amazing and it cures in like 20 seconds,
Wow, it's like
So
pretty fast. What brand is that you use?
I think it's just I think it's Elegoo, the stuff that I had. I just get whatever's on sale. That
Hmm.
when I get low, I just buy another tub of the gray stuff off of Amazon because that's the only place that sells it that can get it to me in New
Hmm.
Brunswick here in Canada. But
Nice.
uh, yeah, you just hit it with. I've got a little cheap little UV light, and man, you cannot ask for a better filler. Uh, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's crazy that you say UV light because that company GIC has it's like the size of a pen,
Oh
and
yeah,
one side is a UV light, and the other side I think it's like a switchable like screwdriver. Like it's like they try to come up with all these different like
that's cool,
gadgets, but
man.
it's all model related too. So
Yeah,
it's
I
a
had a
trip.
I had a guy show up at the shop one day, salesman, and he was selling these touch-up pens that in one end of it had a UV clear coat, and the other end it had the light. And what you could do, like if you get a rock chip in your hood, you'd put this UV clear coat into the rock chip, and then you just flip your little pen over, hit it with the light, and it was gone. It was cool. And
Wow.
that's kind of where the technology came from, and now I'm using it for kits. I do some wide bodies and things like that, and to graft the flares on and such. That's where I kind of came up with the UV resin and the light. It really that's another game changer, and it's a simple tool that you wouldn't think of.
Mm,
A lot of people go for the putty, the Tamiya putty or the
yeah.
milliput or whatever,
When
and
when you apply that resin in the UV light and it's dry, is it the material is it easy to sand?
it's not bad. You have to start off with something that's fairly. fairly aggressive. It's hard, eh? Like it dries to a brittle
Mhm.
consistency. It's not like flexible like a polystyrene would be, but it it sands nice. It sands consistently. Um, but you do have to start off with something that is fairly strong backed in order to get that bite in. And it can be carved, it can be shaped. Um, we're printing 3D bodies out of it. It's very versatile. I had this was it the Riddler? There was a Riddler build off for the model car build off, and I took a 1940 Ford, and I wanted to have the fenders look more like a teardrop effect, like a almost like a motorcycle fender would, where it has some of them have the return that comes back in around underneath.
Mhm.
So what I did, I just put I took this car and I put masking tape in behind the fenders, and I poured a little bit of the UV resin on it, and then hit it with the light, contoured it with my sanding sticks, and then put another piece of tape in, more UV, and I kept building out. And even on that truck that's in the background there,
Mhm.
that was a cast resin replacement hood for it because I didn't have a hood for it either,
Mhm.
but it was warped really bad. And on the
Yeah.
passenger side, it was probably 3 millimeters gap between it and the fender.
Yeah.
So I just put a strip of masking tape along the bottom, flooded it with the UV resin, hit it with the light, sanded it, flooded it again, sanded it, and I was able to build out without adding styrene or anything. I could build out
Mhm.
that part so that gap was gone. Um, it's
Wow.
incredible stuff. It's really incredible.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's so good having those options. It's just so amazing how, you know, it's progressed from like styrene, scratch building, the putty, now it's
Yeah,
like the resin, and now it's like you could just print stuff too if you design it. It's just there's just
yeah.
so much out there. Like, what more do we want, Like, we're so
I don't
spoiled.
I don't know where we're going next, but man, it's going to be exciting. I know that.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, I feel like at some point there's gonna be like a build off where like the cars are gonna have to be designed on the computer, and then
That'd be cool.
they're gonna be printed, like they're gonna be super off the top printed, and then once they're printed, all right, here we go. Now we start the build off. We have to assemble the whole thing and
Oh
paint it,
yeah,
and then it's just gonna be elevating like crazy,
yeah,
and then the phases are gonna come in too, like overall, like there's gonna be a time where all the focus is on like engine work, right? We want
yeah,
to up our detail game, and then
yeah.
later we want to focus on just paint jobs. We want to up that. Later, the detail of the stances too,
Mm,
we have to
yeah.
get that one, and there's all these like different categories that at some point a model builder is just going to become very well rounded with like everything right
Oh,
there.
absolutely.
And I mean, if anything, I feel like the next steps would probably be getting into dioramas or something, like
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
car itself. um
Well, you look at Black Box. I don't. Are you familiar with Black
yes,
Box?
yeah. Hmm.
He built that gas station diorama. I picked up that file, and it's really nice, man. Everything from the ice chest to the gas pumps to the storefront,
Hmm.
like it's just wicked, wicked.
Dang,
I don't
that's
know.
yeah.
You know,
I actually reached out to Black Box not too long ago. I want to get him on an interview. He's not, he says,
oh, you
yeah,
got
but
to.
he's not ready right now.
You
So
know what?
in the
And he
future, I hope.
this is how cool he is. This is how cool he is. He came out with that 572 Chevy engine, right? And
Yeah.
he's selling like he's got the twin turbo kit. Honest to God, that twin turbo kit falls together. It falls. He has over engineered it to the point where it is absolute perfection. Well, I reached out to him for the SEMA build. I said, look, man, I'm using your body kit, but the one thing I'm missing, like, and this was back when I first envisioned it, it was like a 70s super wide body, jacked up in the back, side pipes. That's how I had this car visioned. It's a little different now, but I said, I need to have a 70s and 80s style engine in this, but I want to use black box parts because everything else has been black box on it. And he didn't have like a supercharger or tunnel ram. He does have a supercharger that he sells through Iceman, but that's, they've got their own agreement there, which is cool. But I reached out to him and I said, and I sent him a couple pictures. I said, look, if you just had a dress up kit for that engine like this, my God, like 2 days later, I get an email from him and he says, what do you think of this? And he sent me a picture of this tunnel ram setup with the dual carbs, with the big scoop, with the thin valve covers to work in conjunction with the 572 that he already has out there.
Mhm.
My mind was blown.
Dang.
Like, man, you are so cool because he's reacting to his customers' requests. He's designing stuff that's in their interest. It's just nuts. And the same thing with Ryan. Oh, his last name's eluding me right now. But Z-Force model, Z-Force ZFMW. So Z-Force Model Works. He does wheels mainly. And I reached out to him because his quality of his designs is just impeccable. I reached out to him to get to say, hey, look at this wheel that's on. It was one of the Riddler Award contestants for, if you heard of the Riddler, it's for, but you probably have. When I say Riddler, you know what that is,
I'm
Edgar.
thinking about Batman, the Riddler. That's what I'm thinking about when you say the Riddler.
Yeah. No, geez. No, it's like America's most beautiful roadster or
Okay,
something like,
okay.
I don't know. Other people could explain it. Anyway, so there's this Riddler Award they give out at the big car show every year, and it's all like old. It's hot rods that have been taken to the next level. And I saw this set of wheels that was on one of them, and I sent it off to him and said, "Hey, man, could you come up with something like that?" And my God, like he turned around and had that wheel in his inventory like the
Yeah,
next 2 days later. It was like, yes, sir. So it's if you see it, it can be made, and that's an era that we've
yeah,
never been in before.
yeah. That's
Like,
funny. Right now, I did a online search real quick, and I see all these beautiful cars. It's like the Riddler Award, you know.
yeah, yeah, it's
I'm over here
one
thinking
D.
about Batman.
Yeah. Jack Nicholson.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
That'd
Yeah,
be cool. That'd be
222
cool.
Award. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'm gonna have to dig deep right here.
Oh man. Yeah. Yeah, these, like I say, we are living in the best times right now. We honestly are. Because
Yeah.
if you can think it, you can build it. And
Mhm.
we've never been there before.
Yeah, I feel like eventually, everybody that's building is gonna eventually like get to see each other in person at some point too, you know.
Yeah.
All the relationship, friendships that people are building as well in the community, at some point it's gonna the modeling what we're creating with these cars, it's what's gonna bring people together to travel, to take you to, you probably would think, oh, I would never see myself going to this like state or country, but because of modeling, it took me there,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
There's a car show in New Brunswick every year, and apparently it's the largest one in Canada. It's the what they call the Atlantic Nationals. And with that, there is a model show that they put on at the same time. And this year was the first time I'd ever gone there, but I'm like, I'm back in the hobby. COVID has been lifted. There's a model show and contest and Canada's largest car show. What am I doing staying home? So I gathered up my a couple kits that I had built for the build offs and headed down to Moncton where they have this car show every year, and I had a blast. I came home with I won the best Chevrolet there, and that I was just so happy to be back into the hobby and be back participating and out in public and looking at other people's kits and sharing ideas and talking in person. I can't even imagine being at NNL like
Mhm.
that. I don't know if I could even handle that, but maybe someday I can get to that.
Yeah, I
That's
think I
quite a
think I think you'll make it happen in the future. You'll come out for sure.
I'd
Yeah,
love to.
that's a fun one.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Dang.
that's cool, man.
Yeah, you gotta. I mean, and that's the thing too. I mean, imagine if you weren't model building. You know, let's say you just weren't like. Let's say you were like back then, but right now, like
Yeah.
you were still at a pause. You know, it messes also with you, man. Like you might be depressed. You know, you might be.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be fulfilled at some point. Like we all
Yeah.
need. I feel like everybody needs to have some kind of hobby, something to make you unwind, you know, to make you just kind of like relax. But I feel like with
Yeah.
the modeling, there's just this big gift it gives you, you know, for your life, like a perspective as like things that you're doing.
And the cool thing too is you're doing it from home, you
Hmm.
know. I in order to, like you talk about getting a hobby to overcome anxiety or stress or whatever, you know, that's what our hobbies are for. They're an outlet. I started I've always played a bit of music. Um, well, I got involved with these shows around the area here. They're pretty not huge. It'd be like 700 people in the audience at most, I think was the capacity. But I started traveling around playing music and stuff for a little while, and that was a lot of fun. It was an outlet, but the more I did it, the more I got asked to do more, and we noticed as a family that it was taking me away from home, you
Yeah.
know, and I was always out doing something. And while I was getting my fulfillment out of it, I wasn't spending time with my wife and two kids who were growing up before my eyes, you know?
Hmm.
And since I've gotten back into the hobby, like I mentioned earlier, my wife will be watching a show on TV. I can be sitting right there at the kitchen table behind her with my mat out and my kit in front of me and be, you know, plugging away, polishing paint or detailing an engine or doing whatever. But I'm getting my I'm having fun. I'm enjoying it. I'm getting my creativity out of there, but I'm also doing something where I'm home and my family has me there with them. So
Yeah.
it's a great hobby in that sense.
No, yeah, you're right. You know, I feel the same with like, you know, modeling and stuff. Like before, I was very involved with like the DJ scene and producing music too.
Yeah,
Like just like home production, like digital with like hardware or whatever, you know. But
that's cool.
I do remember that like I reached the point where I felt like, all right, I got my fulfillment. Like I got to travel, I got to go out and stay up late and do all these things. But
Yeah,
now I feel like I like this, but I need to kind of like take a break from it and I need to move on to other things.
yeah,
And it was taking me away, you know, from my fiance, like family and stuff like that, because I was always like, oh, I gotta do this or I gotta go be here. And it's like um it reached the point where I remember getting like a couple of gigs and I was just like, oh yeah, I'll do them. But then like like I was like, what's 2 months away, you know? I'll do it.
hmm,
But then
yeah,
that initial week leading up to the day, I was
yeah.
like dreading it, like, I'm not even into this anymore right now. Like
I
I don't even want to go. What time am I gonna play? Like at 11 p.m.? Dang, like
mhm.
at that time, I'm already like I'm either working on a model or I'm just like chilling watching a movie with my girl.
Yeah,
You know, I'm like, what am I doing? Like going out there, being out there. And I remember just like playing but not having fun. Like it was
yeah,
just to do it to get it out of the way, just to be like, all right, here I delivered, you know, I'm
yep,
done. All right, peace out. And then the next time, hey, you down? I'll be like, nah. Like now I really thought about it and I was like, nah, man, like I'm sorry, but I just can't do it anymore. And
yeah,
and even now, like you said, you know, like my daughter, like she's 2 years old, but every day I look at her and I'm go, she's just growing, like she's growing up in front of me, right before
yeah,
my eyes, right? So it's like I told myself, all right, this is my balance. In the mornings, I drop her off. daycare, I have an hour for myself to do whatever I need to do with modeling. And then
Yeah.
once that hour is done, I have to just focus on my day job work, working from home.
Right.
Once that's done, then I have to pick up the baby. She's home. All right, it's all about her and my girl, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then once they're asleep, all right, I'm back to now I have a couple of hours to work on models or model cars or work on anything content, but it's always model related. Um,
Yeah.
but the thing I like is that I'm home and that if something happens, they need me or they need me to go to the store or they need me to take them somewhere, I'm here, you know.
Yeah.
And I just can't picture myself like right now to be like, oh, I'm gonna head out and hang out with friends or I'm gonna head out at night and just, you know, go somewhere. I can't like
Yeah.
I just can't picture it no more. Like I want to be as close to them, you know, as possible. And I think part of it too is when I used to go to like Armando Flores his house to model build and stuff like that, that was
Yeah.
also like an inspiration, like seeing how, you know, he's at home, but you know, he has his workspace and everything, but at the same time he's at an arm's reach if his family needs him, like,
Yeah.
you know, they need something or whatever, like he's always willing to, you know, he's a father, like and a
Yeah.
husband to do his part. So it was always something that I saw like, man, this is what I like about model building. It's a very structured like thing with patience. Like you have to follow the instructions to get a final piece because if you skip a step or you try to cut a corner, it's not going to come out the way you want it to come out.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. That's right. Yeah. And I think, I noticed my loss of interest in doing all that. Probably one of the last couple times that I stepped out onto the stage and I didn't have that thrill anymore, like the butterflies in the stomach and they're like, oh, this is
Hmm.
going to be, I hope I don't screw up. And it was more like, whatever, let's just get this over with,
Yeah.
So, but you know what? Like today, another exciting part about today is that the build off, the now or never build off ended, and my truck, my 60 Ford, it
Hmm.
started off, oh, this is fun. This is what's cool about these build offs. Because I love competing. I love it. A lot of people say, oh, you know what? I just want to build it to be part of it. No, I want to get in there and I want to try my best and I want to see how I do. But my truck started off right out of the gate. I was in the lead. It was like, oh, I might actually have a chance of winning this. And I didn't even expect this one to make a showing other than just, be there and be done. And then throughout the day, I slowly watched, other people's likes get more and more and more, and it got overtaken quite ferociously by James Ferris. He's wicked. He's another Canadian who
Hmm.
he's you should have him on sometime. I bet you he could tell a story. Um, anyway, he built this little 1961 or 60 Ranchero, Falcon Ranchero, another AMT kit. And these are all rebuilders. Like these were kits this time around. That was something that you either built before and weren't quite happy with it, or you picked it up as a rebuilder or whatever. Like this wasn't a fresh kit build, and
Hmm.
his command just shot right past mine like it always does. That guy's a killer. And but I love that spirit of camaraderie and the little competitiveness and seeing, oh well, I think that he's got more likes because of this, so next time I'm going to do that. And like, my God, it's been a ball, all those build offs. And right
Hmm.
now, I guess earlier I asked about kids and the kids getting into the hobby because we have a junior build off going now for with the now or nevers that is introducing. And I was surprised there's not a whole lot of entrants, but the ones that are in, they're jumping right on it and they're going full bore. And
Nice.
it's nice to see the communication and they're picking up tips and tricks as they go from the guys who are mentoring them. And no, I think it's going to add a whole new level to the hobby, and for people, either coming back into it or trying it for the first time, giving them a platform to work on and get that. the friendships built and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. Oh, this is a man, good times.
No, yeah, it definitely is. How long is this this new build off gonna go on for? Is it a month or 2 months?
With the juniors, I think it's oh, Michael shoot me for not remembering, but it's longer. There's a much longer period. The build off that we have going on with Now or Never right now, it's a box stock and it's only 1 month.
Nice.
Uh, and I have that old the Racer's Wedge kit. I decided my uncle Bill, my brother Jeff, and my brother Darren, they were the three people that inspired me with model kits when I was growing up. My uncle Bill, he turned 70 this year. My brother Jeff turned 60. I turned 50. My other brother Darren, he's not on one of the, he's not in line with the decades with us, but his was the first one that I built. I built him a 1966 Ford pickup, red and white, real pretty little truck. It was the Mobius kit, which I can't say enough good about them. They're
Mhm.
beautiful. Um, so I built him that because it was his favorite. He had a tattoo put on his arm years ago of this truck. So I built him the truck that was in his tattoo and presented it to him in one of those, those display cases. And my brother Jeff, uh, I'm building the Racer's Wedge with. I asked him what his absolute, if he could have any car, what would it would be? And he sent me a picture of an old Cougar. So I haven't started it yet, but I have the kit and I've got some files to make the fender flares and the wheels and the big engine. So I'm going to build him a pro touring Cougar that sits up on the back of the Racer's Wedge and give that to him. And then my uncle Bill, I've been working on and off on a 3D printed cab over uh, Chevrolet 52 Chevrolet truck. I'm trying to get it right, but
Mhm.
um, you know, resin bodies aren't quite like working with styrene. And anyway, it's been coming along, but it's a slow process for him. It's just really cool that I get to honor. It's an idea I come up with because I look at these model kits as being art, not as being toys or
Mhm.
collectibles. I look at them as art, as a canvas.
Yeah.
And it's my way of saying, you know what, guys, thank you so much for inspiring me, for helping me grow up through the years. And here's what I feel is a build that reflects you as in plastic. Like this is what I think. This is where I picture you as being. It's just really cool. It's sort of a side project that I've been working on, and I was able to incorporate build off for this month in order to get the Racer's Wedge done, so I can get that car up on it. So it's cool.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. I like that you're being thoughtful like that to give back to them, as they introduced you into modeling and
Yeah.
it's inspired you and how it's helped you. That's a nice thing to do right there to give back.
The only trouble with it is that has taken my kits on the bench from one to about, I got 5 or 6 projects currently running, which I'm terrible with organizing my time on these things.
Yeah. It's like they're on the conveyor belt. You're just like, all right, let's work on this one. All right, here it comes. Here comes the next one.
Yeah, I could be Henry Ford, like, all right, here, I got to hire staff to come in and work the assembly line.
Oh, that's cool. Well, hey, this was awesome.
Geez.
Keith,
Look,
man.
I've been dying to get on your show only because I wanted to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, no, yeah.
You are like the
I'm
king when it
happy
comes to.
we got to do it. I mean, this was cool. I mean, I know for sure we'll have you back on again. We'll do another one.
Yeah,
Um,
no,
for
geez.
for everyone who's listening, if you guys want to check out Steve's work, he's on Instagram. It's Freddie Beach _ customs. That's where you can check
Okay.
them out. And obviously, I'll link you once the episode goes up live. I'll link you
Mhm.
on there. And yeah, man. I mean, thank you for taking the time. I know it's like late for you up there.
It's
And
3 a.m. now, which is
yeah, dude,
cool.
that's crazy. For listeners, look at that, 3 a.m. Taking the time. Thank
Well
you for
worth it,
doing that.
man. Well worth it.
Thank
I
you,
really
thank you.
appreciate it.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
mean, just keep doing your thing, keep building, keep inspiring people. Like, I know everything that you're doing, it's definitely inspiring model builders out there, putting in that work, and
Hmm.
that's great. And just keep that balance going, and definitely, it's modeling and family, everything. Just, keep doing your thing, and let's keep in touch.
Absolutely. Well, thanks a lot, Edgar. I really appreciate your time. And yeah, thank you for
Yeah, thank
everything you do.
you. No, thanks. Yeah, no worries. All right, man.
Right on,
Well,
man.
thank you, Steve, and you have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah.
We'll
All
talk
right.
soon.
Later
All
on.
right. See
Peace.
ya.
Bye.